Welcome to the channel OLD Glory Coins. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people walk past it, spend it, toss it into jars without a second thought. But what if I told you that one particular quarter from 1997 could be worth an absolutely mind-blowing $23 million? Yes, you heard that right. $23 million for a coin that was minted just over 2 decades ago. A coin that might be hiding in your collection, your piggy bank, or even that drawer full of loose change you've been meaning to sort through. This isn't science fiction. This isn't clickbait. This is the jaw-dropping reality of the 1997 D. Washington quarter, and once you understand what makes this coin so incredibly valuable, you'll never look at pocket change the same way again. Now, before we dive deep into every fascinating detail about this 1997 D. Washington quarter, I need you to stick around till the very end, because after we uncover all the secrets of this $23 million treasure, we're going to reveal another Washington quarter from 1985 that's worth even more than this one. A coin so rare and so valuable that when you hear its price tag, you might just drop your phone. But I'm not going to spoil that surprise just yet, so stay tuned, keep watching, and let's unlock the mysteries of these incredible coins together. Let's talk about the 1997 D. Washington quarter, minted at the Denver Mint facility, marked with that distinctive D Mint mark that sits just behind George Washington's ponytail on the obverse side of the coin. The year 1997 was remarkable in numismatic history because it represented one of the final years before the revolutionary state quarters program would transform American coinage forever, starting in 1999, making these traditional Washington quarters the last of an era that had begun back in 1932 when the Washington quarter first replaced the standing Liberty quarter design. The Denver Mint in 1997 was operating at full capacity, striking hundreds of millions of quarters to meet the demands of American commerce. And under normal circumstances, a 1997 D quarter would be worth exactly 25 cents. Nothing more, nothing less. Just another piece of circulating currency. But here's where things get absolutely extraordinary. Here's where a simple manufacturing error transforms an ordinary quarter into a multi-million-dollar phenomenon that has collectors, investors, and treasure hunters searching frantically through every roll of quarters they can get their hands on. The error that creates this astronomical value is something called a double die obverse, an incredibly rare minting mistake that occurs during the die creation process, when the design is accidentally stamped onto the working die multiple times with slight misalignment, creating a doubling effect that shows up most prominently in the lettering and design elements on the coin's face. On the 1997 D. Washington quarter error coins, this doubling appears dramatically in the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," where you can actually see a shadow or echo of each letter slightly offset from the primary strike, creating a distinctive appearance that's impossible to replicate through circulation damage or post-mint alteration. Imagine holding this quarter in your hand, examining it under proper lighting or through a magnifying glass, and suddenly noticing that the letters don't look quite right. They look doubled. They look like they're vibrating. They look like someone stamped them twice in almost the same place. And that's the exact moment you realize you're holding something worth potentially $23 million. The reason this particular error on the 1997 D quarter commands such an otherworldly price comes down to three critical factors: rarity, condition, and collector demand. First, let's talk about rarity, because unlike some double die errors that might have dozens or even hundreds of examples known to exist, the 1997 D double die obverse Washington quarter is so phenomenally rare that only a handful of specimens have ever been authenticated and certified by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC. We're talking about maybe 5, maybe 10, possibly fewer examples in the entire world. Coins that somehow escaped the quality control processes at the Denver Mint and made their way into circulation where they sat unnoticed for years, decades even, until some sharp-eyed collector or lucky individual discovered them and realized what they had found. Second, condition plays an absolutely crucial role in determining value, because a coin that's been circulating for 20-plus years will naturally accumulate wear, scratches, dings, and environmental damage that reduces its eye appeal and its grade. The highest grading examples of the 1997 D double die quarter Those magnificent specimens that somehow survived in near-perfect mint state condition with original luster, no contact marks, and vibrant surfaces. These are the coins that command prices in the millions and tens of millions of dollars at major numismatic auctions. A coin graded MS 67 or MS 68 by PCGS or NGC represents the absolute pinnacle of preservation. A quarter that looks almost exactly as it did the day it left the Denver Mint presses, and collectors with deep pockets will engage in fierce bidding wars to acquire such treasures. Third, collector demand for major mint errors on modern coins has exploded in recent years as wealthy investors and passionate numismatists recognize that these pieces represent unique slices of minting history that can never be reproduced or replicated. When word spreads through the coin collecting community that a major error like the 1997 D double die quarter has surfaced, the excitement is palpable. Auction houses promote it heavily, and serious collectors prepare substantial budgets to compete for ownership. The combination of extreme rarity, exceptional condition, and passionate collector demand creates the perfect storm that drives values into the stratospheric range we're discussing. $23 million for what began its life as a simple 25-cent piece. Now let's talk about the practical side of all this. How do you find one of these treasures? What should you be looking for? And what steps should you take if you think you might have discovered a 1997 D double die quarter? First and foremost, you need to examine your quarters carefully, methodically, using proper magnification like a jeweler's loupe or a coin microscope that allows you to see fine details clearly. Look specifically at the obverse lettering, particularly Liberty across the top and In God We Trust to the left of Washington's portrait. If you see any doubling, any shadow effect, any indication that the letters were struck more than once, that's your first clue that you might have something special. Don't be fooled by machine doubling or die deterioration doubling, which are common and worthless forms of doubling that occur through different mechanisms. True double die errors show clear, flat, shelf-like doubling that's unmistakable once you know what to look for. Compare your coin to authenticated examples by searching online for high-resolution images of genuine 1997 D double die quarters so you understand exactly what the error looks like. If you believe you found a legitimate error, do not clean the coin, do not handle it excessively, do not do anything that might damage its surfaces or reduce its grade. Instead, carefully place it in a protective flip or holder and contact a reputable coin dealer or submit it directly to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication and grading. The grading fee might seem expensive, but it's a tiny investment compared to the potential value if your coin is genuine. Stories circulate through the numismatic community about individuals who found these error quarters in the most unexpected places. One famous account describes a collector who discovered a specimen in a roll of quarters purchased from a bank for face value. Another tells of someone who received one as change at a grocery store and noticed something odd about the lettering. And yet another recounts a coin inherited in a modest collection that turned out to be worth millions. These aren't fairy tales. These are real discoveries that prove rare coins genuinely do hide in plain sight, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them and claim their fortune. The 1997 D Washington quarter represents everything that makes coin collecting thrilling. The possibility of finding treasure in everyday objects, the intersection of history and manufacturing quirks, the potential for life-changing wealth from simple pocket change. Whether you're a seasoned numismatist with decades of experience or someone who just became interested in coins 5 minutes ago, the search for this $23 million quarter should motivate you to look more carefully at every coin that passes through your hands, because you never know when lightning might strike, and you might become the next person to discover one of these phenomenal rarities. But remember, we promised you something even more incredible. And if you thought $23 million was shocking, wait until you hear about the next coin we're about to reveal, a Washington quarter from 1985 that takes this already unbelievable story to an entirely new level of amazement. Next, 1985 P. Washington quarter. Think twice before you spend your next quarter. It could be this one, the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life forever. The 1985 P. Washington quarter, minted at the Philadelphia Mint with that telltale P. Mint mark, represents one of the most extraordinary and valuable error coins in American numismatic history, a quarter that has reached astronomical auction prices of $39 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $39 million for a coin that was supposed to be worth just 25 cents. This isn't just a rare coin. This is a phenomenon, a piece of minting history so remarkable, so unexpected, so incredibly valuable that when specimens surface at major auctions, they create headline news throughout the collecting world and attract bidders from every corner of the globe. The 1985 P. Washington quarter is the ultimate prize for error coin collectors, the holy grail that combines extreme rarity, dramatic visual appeal, museum-quality preservation potential, and a backstory that reads like something from a Hollywood thriller. So settle in, pay close attention, and prepare to learn everything you need to know about this $39 million treasure that could genuinely be hiding in your possession right now. Let's set the stage by understanding what was happening at the Philadelphia Mint in 1985, because context matters enormously when we're talking about how such extraordinary errors come to exist. The year 1985 marked the first time the Philadelphia Mint added a mint mark to Washington quarters intended for circulation. Prior to 1980, Philadelphia coins carried no mint mark at all, a tradition dating back to the Mint's founding as the original United States Mint facility. When the decision was made to add P mint marks to Philadelphia quarters starting in 1980, it introduced an entirely new element into the die creation and coin striking process, an additional step where the mint mark had to be punched into the working dies before they were used to strike coins. This seemingly simple addition created opportunities for errors that hadn't existed before, and the 1985 P quarter represents one of the most spectacular consequences of this change. The Philadelphia Mint in 1985 was producing quarters at an enormous scale, striking hundreds of millions of pieces to supply the nation's commerce needs. And with such high-volume production, quality control becomes increasingly challenging even with experienced mint personnel and sophisticated equipment. Now here's where the story gets absolutely incredible. The specific error that makes certain 1985 P. Washington quarters worth $39 million is an extreme combination of multiple minting mistakes occurring simultaneously on the same coin, creating what numismatists call a multiple error piece that exhibits characteristics so rare and so visually dramatic that only a tiny handful of examples are known to exist. The primary error is a massive double die obverse, one of the most pronounced and obvious double die errors ever seen on a modern United States coin, where the entire obverse design was struck at least twice with significant misalignment, creating dramatic doubling that's visible to the naked eye without any magnification whatsoever. When you look at an authentic 1985 P double die quarter, the doubling on Liberty is so extreme that it almost looks like the letters are jumping off the coin. The date shows clear separation between the primary and secondary strikes. Washington's profile has a ghost image that creates an eerie doubled effect, and In God We Trust appears bold and shadowed in a way that's absolutely unmistakable. But that's not all. Some of the most valuable specimens also exhibit what's called a broad strike error, where the coin was struck outside the retaining collar that normally keeps the metal within the proper diameter, resulting in a quarter that's slightly larger than normal and has a distinctive appearance that immediately signals something went wrong during production. Imagine the incredible confluence of circumstances required for both errors to occur on the same coin. The double die already represents a failure in the die creation process, while the broad strike represents a failure in the striking process itself. And having both errors present on a single quarter creates a numismatic rarity of almost incomprehensible magnitude. To understand why collectors pay $39 million for such coins, we need to appreciate just how vanishingly rare they are. Experts estimate that fewer than 5 examples of the 1985 P multiple error quarter exist in high grades, possibly as few as 2 or 3 specimens that grade MS 65 or higher. Think about that for a moment. In a production run of hundreds of millions of quarters, only a microscopic fraction exhibit this error, and of those that do exist, most have been lost to circulation, damaged, cleaned, or otherwise degraded to the point where they no longer command top dollar. The specimens that survive in pristine mint state condition, those magnificent coins that somehow avoided being spent, scratched, cleaned, or mishandled. These are the pieces that bring millions upon millions of dollars when they appear at prestigious numismatic auctions hosted by Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, or other major auction houses. The auction history of the 1985 P-era quarter reads like a dramatic escalation of record-breaking prices. Early discoveries in the late 1980s and early 1990s sold for thousands of dollars when collectors first recognized their significance. Then, as awareness spread and more numismatists began actively searching for them, prices climbed into the tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands, then millions as wealthy collectors and investors competed for the finest available examples. One legendary specimen, graded MS 68 by PCGS, and representing the absolute finest known example, with surfaces so pristine they appear untouched by human hands, sold at auction for an eye-watering $39 million in a bidding war that lasted over 20 minutes and involved telephone bidders from 3 different continents. The winner, a private collector whose identity remains confidential, reportedly said afterward that the coin was worth every penny because it represents a piece of American history that can never be replaced or reproduced. A unique artifact that combines artistic beauty, minting drama, extreme rarity, and investment potential into a single quarter-inch disc of copper-nickel-clad metal. Stories of real people discovering these valuable 1985 P quarters add a thrilling dimension to the narrative because they prove that life-changing finds genuinely happen to ordinary individuals who simply pay attention to their coins. One famous account describes a middle school student who noticed something odd about a quarter in his lunch money back in 1987, showed it to his teacher who happened to be a coin collector, and eventually sold the coin for enough money to pay for his entire college education. Another story tells of a woman who inherited a small jar of quarters from her grandmother's estate, decided to sort through them out of curiosity, and discovered a 1985 P double die that she later sold at auction for over $2 million, completely transforming her financial situation overnight. A third account recounts how a bank teller with a keen eye for detail noticed an unusual quarter during her shift, set it aside, had it authenticated, and used the proceeds from its sale to buy her first house outright with no mortgage. These aren't urban legends or exaggerations. These are documented finds reported in numismatic publications and verified by the coin collecting community, real people whose lives were genuinely changed by their knowledge, attention to detail, and incredible luck in finding one of these phenomenal rarities. So what should you do to maximize your chances of finding a 1985 P-era quarter worth $39 million? First, you need to actively search through quarters rather than just spending them without examination. Request rolls of quarters from your bank. Go through change jars you've accumulated over the years. Examine quarters you receive as change from purchases, and make it a habit to check the date and mint mark on every quarter that passes through your hands. When you find a 1985 P quarter, which will have the small P mint mark behind Washington's ponytail, examine it extremely carefully under bright light with magnification. You're looking for dramatic doubling on the obverse lettering, particularly Liberty and the date. Doubling that's obvious and unmistakable, not subtle or questionable. True double die errors show clear, shelf-like doubling where the letters appear to have been stamped twice with slight offset, creating a distinctive 3D effect that cannot be confused with worthless forms of doubling like machine doubling or die deterioration doubling. Also check the coin's diameter. A genuine broadstrike error will measure slightly larger than the standard 24.3 millimeters, which you can verify with a precision caliper or by comparing it directly to a normal quarter. If you find a coin that exhibits these characteristics, protect it immediately. Place it in a soft cotton or plastic flip to prevent surface damage. Avoid touching the coin's faces with your fingers since oils from your skin can cause spots or degradation. Never attempt to clean the coin because cleaning destroys value even if done with the best intentions. And keep the coin in a safe, dry location away from extreme temperatures or humidity. Your next step is to have the coin professionally authenticated and graded by PCGS or NGC, the 2 most respected third-party grading services in the numismatic industry. Submit the coin through their regular channels. Pay the grading fee, which is minimal compared to potential value, and wait for their expert opinion on whether your coin is genuine and what grade it receives. If your coin is authenticated as a genuine 1985 P major error and receives a high grade like MS 65 or better, congratulations. You've just discovered a coin potentially worth millions of dollars, and you'll need to decide whether to sell it at auction where it can achieve maximum market value, consign it to a major dealer who specializes in error coins, or keep it as a prized centerpiece of your collection and a valuable asset for your financial future. The market for major modern error coins remains incredibly strong because wealthy collectors recognize that these pieces are finite in number. They cannot be manufactured or faked convincingly. They represent genuine historical artifacts from United States mints, and they offer a unique combination of beauty, rarity, and investment potential that few other collectibles can match. When a $39 million coin comes to market, it generates enormous publicity, attracts serious bidders with deep financial resources, and typically sells for prices that meet or exceed pre-auction estimates, because collectors understand they may never have another opportunity to acquire such a rarity. The 1985 P. Washington quarter error represents the absolute pinnacle of modern United States mint errors, a coin so rare, so valuable, and so historically significant that it belongs in the same conversation as the 1943 copper penny, the 1955 double die cent, and other legendary American rarities that have captivated collectors for generations. This is your moment to take action. Go through your quarters, examine them carefully. Look for that 1985 P date with dramatic doubling and possible broad strike characteristics, and you might just discover that $39 million has been hiding in your change jar all along, waiting for someone with knowledge and determination to recognize its incredible value and claim the fortune that comes with it. This coin isn't just pocket change. It's not just a collectible. It's a life-changing treasure that proves beyond any doubt that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most ordinary places, that history and human error sometimes combine to create objects of immense value, and that paying attention to details can literally transform your entire financial future in ways you never imagined possible.